What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rats on Film, the show where a bunch of film rats talk about and rank movies. Thwip thwip. Today on the show, we are talking about your friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man. On the show with me today, I have Jordan.
Hello.
Johnny.
So good.
Dylan.
Hello.
And I'm your host, Xander. Welcome to the show, everybody.
You didn't think that was better? It's like the best line from the movies.
Which one is that from?
Spider-Man 3. When they go and they're eating a pie, and then they ask James Franco, how's your pie? And he goes, so good. You guys don't know? Restart the recording. I gotta bring another line.
No. It's good.
We know it.
So we're just going to talk about the live action movies for the Spider-Man films. The Tobey Maguire trilogy, the Andrew Garfield duology, and the Tom Holland trilogy as well. So ranking those amongst each other.
Imagine only getting a duology when everybody else had a trilogy. It's gotta sting.
I know, it feels bad. Got done dirty. Starting out with Spider-Man 2002, directed by Sam Raimi.
This is the quintessential Spider-Man movie to me. I think we have all of the iconic pieces of Spider-Man in this movie. We have Uncle Ben dying, we have red suit Spider-Man, and we have Peter Parker being a little dweeb in high school in New York City. And we have Aunt May, we have a girl, Mary Jane in this one. I feel like, and then you have the J. Jonah Jameson photographer dynamic. And then you have a classic villain, the Green Goblin. I think all of those ingredients make the recipe for the most classic Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I do think that the Tobey movies, and this one starts it off, has the best understanding of Spider-Man as a character and kind of the core dynamics and values of it. I feel like a big part of Spider-Man is sort of the interpersonal relationships that he has and how the people in his life are let down by him, or how he has really complicated relationships with his best friend's dad, who's also kind of a father figure, who also becomes his arch enemy, who's trying to kill the girl he loves, and his aunt, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that this movie handles a lot of that stuff really well.
I think one thing I really like about the Sam Raimi movies is, at their best, they have a lot of sincerity and how you as a regular person can be a hero and be like Spider-Man. And I think that that's an important part of the character that Sam Raimi really understands and nails in these movies.
What I like the most about the first movie is that, like, of all the iterations of Spider-Man, like in this one, he has like the shittiest life. I feel like the movie also has like a lot of dark human stuff where it's like he kills the criminal who he thinks like killed Uncle Ben by accident.
I mean, even when you get to the end, Green Goblin dies. It's not Spider-Man's fault. I mean, Green Goblin does it to himself. I don't know why he thought he would, even if it had hit Spider-Man, it probably would have went through him and still hit him.
Well, and he mourns
himself
him too.
Right in the dick.
He's not just like, nice, we beat the bad guy. It's like you said, it's his father figure. It's tragic.
Right.
And he also knows that he was messed up mentally and all this other stuff was going on with this goblin serum, which also we have to talk about, that Willem Dafoe is probably the best part of this whole movie.
Yeah.
He's a great comic book villain.
Yeah, I was scared of him as a kid.
His facial expressions.
His reflection in the mirror. I was like, no. I'm turning it off. I'm scared.
Yeah.
It's like over the top, but it's good.
Also, the costume is really good. The mask itself, and then also just like the bright green of the costume, and it's shiny, and him flying. Like, it's exactly what you would want to see on screen.
There's some energy, though, about something like the way Willem Dafoe carries himself, where you're watching, you're like, yeah, he's a brilliant scientist that you would look up to if you were Peter, but also he'll kill you. And there's just something about his face. Like,
teeth.
I always think about the Thanksgiving scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where Peter's like crawling around and his blood drips and his eyes just like narrow. It's so good.
I think Tobey's Spider-Man suit is also really good.
Yeah, it's classic.
Has to be shouted out.
The webs are amazing. The raised webs are so cool.
Yeah, I think Tobey, we'll talk about it more as we go through the other movies, but I think Tobey has the best portrayal of Peter of the three actors that we're talking about on the show today. I don't necessarily think he's the best Spider-Man, but I think his portrayal of Peter trying to live up to the things that his uncle taught him before he passed away, I feel like you get a lot of good stuff with that, with Tobey's performance in this movie.
I also think it's just like Sam Raimi understanding that like it should be 50-50. It's always like 50 of Peter's life is like the Green Goblin destroying a building, but also 50% of it is like, I have no money to pay for school. Like,
Well, and I think that's something that makes Peter Parker and Spider-Man in general different than a lot of other superheroes, where he kind of is the everyman and he's not a trust fund kid. He's not from some big corporation. Like, he's literally just smart and he's just a guy from New York. Not only does that make him more relatable for an audience, because most people are just normal people trying to live life, and I don't know, it's like shines a mirror on you. Like, look at this guy though. He also has to save the world. Like, you're like, oh, I see.
I also have I love all the Spider-Women, but I love Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane.
She's so good. She's the perfect girl next door. She like does MJ perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
In the first movie, I really like her MJ.
Ingrained in my memory.
James Franco is also good as Harry.
Oh my god. We're going to talk about James Franco? Because let's be real, he's not good as Harry, but I love it.
Oh, I love
James Franco in these movies.
Yeah, I don't think any of the performances are really good in these except for Willem Dafoe.
Really? I love all of them.
Dylan, pop off about Aunt May.
So. I think she's so good. I think she's cute. She's like little. Like, you don't want her to get hurt. Like, she reminds you of like your grandma.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying about it being like a 50-50 Peter and Spider-Man. And when you focus a bit more on Peter, Aunt May is such a huge part of him as a character. So having her be sort of that touchstone for him is really important.
But I also think that she's what you worry about when you find out that like people find out Peter's identity. You're like, oh no, they're going to get Aunt May or Mary Jane. Like, those are the two that are like scary.
Which is like exactly what the Green Goblin does, right?
Like, it's scary.
Yeah, there are a little too many screaming women in these movies. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, it's too much.
I mean, at least they fix it later on in the other trilogies. Like, I think the female characters are really good.
Yeah,
totally.
But I still think Kirsten Dunst is good as MJ, like beyond the misogyny of maybe the screenplay and the direction. I think she still does a good job with it. And she feels like a human being, I think.
I mean, one thing I'll give this movie, but this trilogy entirely, is like, I think it has my favorite filmmaking.
Interesting.
And I love that this one, like, look, like in the scene where he fights Green Goblin, like, it's all real and it's like, you can like just feel like it's like happening in front of you. Like, I just like that about it.
I do like it, and I think it's good, and the practical stuff is great. But it feels like a stage set. It doesn't feel like a real building they're fighting in, and it's fine. I think it works, and I actually am with you. I prefer that to
me. It just
the Tom Holland
like,
trilogy.
It like has like such a New York zest to it that I like a lot.
It just doesn't feel real to me. It feels like real in the world that it's created, but it doesn't feel like our world.
But it's not. Like, Spider-Man is in our world. You know what I mean? So it is like
he's in my world.
Not to bring the multiverse into it, but like, we don't have a Spider-Man.
I choose to believe.
Oh god.
Bully Maguire's right around the corner.
All right, so starting at the top of the list,
yes.
Spider-Man 1. Can we move on to Spider-Man 2?
Yes. So Spider-Man 2, 2004, also directed by Sam Raimi.
Yes, Spider-Man 2 is so good.
Elite to me.
And that was not even me referencing the James Franco line that I referenced before. I was just genuinely saying it's so good.
Yeah, after Spider-Man 1, the Green Goblin being so iconic, Alfred Molina coming in and really raising the stakes with Doc Ock is incredible, and something that doesn't always happen in movies that use a really good villain in their first movie.
You know why Alfred Molina is so good? Is because he plays Otto so genuine. And it's just like Peter, and it's just the kind of person that Peter wants to be. You know what I mean? Not as Spider-Man, as an individual, as a scientist. And he plays it so genuine about, like, it's our responsibility with intelligence to help people in the world and to do the right thing, and I'm going to help so many people. And then when he turns, it becomes similar to Green Goblin, like, very over the top, but in a good, successful way. And I feel like you feel it a lot because he's so genuine and nice at the beginning.
Yeah, the Raimi movies are almost theatrical. They almost feel like stage productions. And Toby gives a theatrical performance, I think, as Peter and Spider-Man. And Alfred Molina does a really good job at like matching that energy, but also making it feel villainous.
Yeah, I think that this movie, when you're comparing the two villains, I have a hard time deciding who I like more. I maybe like the Green Goblin more, even though from a comic book or like a 90s animated show, which is my touchstone for Spider-Man, I maybe like Doc Ock more. But I do think he is a really, the premise of it is really great, and it ends up being fairly simple villain procedure to then also have the Spider-Man No More playing out in the background while he's kind of rebuilding his machine. They actually work really well together from a screenwriting perspective to set up and give time for both of the arcs to happen and then for it to ultimately conclude together.
For me, like, my favorite thing about this movie is like how scary it is. As a kid watching this, when the arms come to life and take over like the surgery room, I just like liked watching that as a kid because I was like, oh, this is like freaking me out a little bit, but I like that. Otto Octavius is still kind of like, I just wanted to save the world. Like, I'm not trying to be a bad person.
It was the tentacles the whole time.
No, but I think one thing that's good about these movies is that they show how all the villains are good people on one side of them, and that their intentions originally are not always to be bad, and they get caught up in maybe bad emotions. Like, I think Otto, it is the tentacles, but also there is a part of him that's like, this is my life's work and this is my dream and I'll do anything to achieve it. It's a great thing for villains and also for Spider-Man villains, because a big part of Spider-Man is how do you find the good in people? Like, everybody has good in them, even his greatest villains.
Yeah, and it's a good foil for Spider-Man also, because in almost every movie he has that moment where he's like, should I even do this? And to see like, oh, people with like superpowers go bad, like he still fights and is like, no, I have to be the good. Like, I have to use my powers and I have to be the good in the world.
Well, yeah, also too, looking at everything through shades of gray, you could argue that Peter in this movie is in a lot darker place than he is in the first one, because he gives up on being Spider-Man. And then you start to have those questions of, you know, what Uncle Ben tells him, where if you have great power, you have a responsibility to use it to help people. And he's choosing not to. So you could argue that he's kind of, you know, tapping into the darker side of himself in this movie a little bit more. And so it is interesting to look at the moral grays of different characters and stuff like that.
I also think it's interesting that this movie kind of shows that, like, if he does give up Spider-Man, he does have a better life. Like he's like I have my mental health is amazing and I can do my job and I'm like going to plays and like my grades are amazing. Like, you're like, dang, like,
yeah, Peter's life sucks because of
I feel like in
because of being
other ones
Spider-Man.
he's like excellent in both ways, like kind of like he's a good Spider-Man, he's a good Peter Parker, like he's just smart across the board. But in this one he's like, he has to pick one, like he has a capacity.
Yeah, I think this one does do a really good job at highlighting that. It drives home the sacrifice that he's making to be Spider-Man.
And that's the thing that sets this movie apart from other superhero movies and other Spider-Man movies too, is that a big portion of the movie, he's literally not Spider-Man in the middle of the movie for a long time. But it doesn't drag in this movie because the emotional stakes behind everything and him finding his way through his emotions and what he wants out of life and what his choices are, it's really compelling.
I was gonna say that reminded me that something I really love about this movie, and I think why it propels it to the top for me, is like the cinematography. Like, I love the shot where it like pulls out of Otto's glasses and it's like Spider-Man swinging in. Like, I think that's cool. And then I love the shot where they're like in the cafe and he like senses that something's coming and they like spin and it's like all practical. Like, I think it's a really good looking movie.
I agree.
Yeah, the practical set pieces look great.
The practical tentacles too, the puppets are really
So
great.
good.
That's super cool.
Everything is very epic and cinematic.
One thing that we didn't.
And one thing we haven't even mentioned is the music is amazing in these movies. And that
Yeah,
adds to
Danny
it.
Elfman.
Yeah. Is that what you were going to say, Jordan?
I literally was gonna be like, we didn't mention this on the first
No, I don't know
one,
why
but-
we didn't.
Yeah.
But then when you're
Music
thinking
is so
about the
good.
shots, like the music plays in your mind. That's why I was thinking about it.
Yeah,
It's
the
so
score
good.
is really good.
Danny Elfman, king.
Well, also the best James Franco line in this movie is when he says, Spider-Man humiliated me by touching me, and then he puts sunglasses on. So let's not forget that.
Yeah.
That part's so
Isn't
good.
this the one that's this one's Pizza Time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pizza Time.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
another one. Like, pizza
Pizza
time.
time.
Pizza time. And she's like, you're late.
Yeah, it's above.
I would put it
One.
above one.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
would put it
God,
above.
yeah.
All right, so
All right,
2-1.
easy. All right, next up then, Spider-Man 3, 2007, round out the trilogy.
Bully Maguire.
That's the review.
Automatic 3.
This one like almost hurts a little.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
It's better than I thought it was.
It's-
I watched
it's
it
better
today
than
and I was
people act
there's
like
a lot
it
of
is.
merit. Yeah, there's a lot of merit in it. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff in it.
I do think that the culmination of the Harry storyline in this one is actually ultimately pretty good. I kind of like it.
I think it
I
would have
think-
been better if they didn't make him lose his memory. Like, I think it starts out really good and then he gets amnesia. It's weird.
Yeah, that part's lame.
And then he just gets it back.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then
that
it's
part
like,
is lame.
It's the same as it was. Why'd we
Right.
do that?
Harry kind of descends and follows in the footsteps of his father, being all consumed by revenge. The memory loss thing is dumb. But then he decides to be a hero and team up with Spider-Man and help Spider-Man save the city at the end from the big baddie.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Topher Grace.
for having 2.5 villains, it like does it okay. Like it's not as convoluted as I used to think it was.
Sony loves threesomes and foursomes. It's fucking a problem.
Love.
Yeah, I don't like the connecting Sandman to Uncle Ben's death, but
Oh, I like
Stupid.
that.
kind of random.
Really? You guys don't like that?
I don't
No.
like it.
It's
Just
stupid.
like why? Like we saw the first movie. Why two
No,
movies
yeah, I
later
get-
do we have to overcomplicate that?
I guess that is fair. I honestly feel like this movie gets a really bad rap, but not necessarily for all the right reasons. To me, the thing that bothers me the most about this movie is that Peter's a jerk before he gets the symbiote suit. He's like
Yeah,
a jerk
true.
the entire movie. And then he gets the symbiote suit, and then he's still a jerk, but he's just into jazz now.
He's just campy jerk. He's Sam Raimi jerk.
Yeah, like I get that part's like really cringe. It's also hilarious. Like I love it. And I know that people
I love his hair.
shit on that, but I feel like he should have been normal, like how he is in the rest of the movies originally, and then become how he is at the beginning of the movie with the black suit, you know, where he's like ignoring MJ, being like, oh, Spider-Man's so great, everybody loves me, I'm the best, all this stuff. Like, why is he doing that?
Yeah, kissing Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, he does all that before the black suit. Like, why?
Yeah, I big upped the interpersonal relationships in the Raimi movies and it making the villains really interesting. And we already talked about it on this one with Sandman. They tried to do it with Sandman, but it feels kind of forced and I don't really like it. And then the Eddie Brock one just doesn't really work well, where he just gets mad at him because he's a better photographer. He faked pictures and Peter exposes him, and then Eddie Brock's like, I'll kill you for that.
Well, he
It's
also
kind of
made out
insane.
with his girl. I mean, he's dating Gwen Stacy.
Right.
Or he thinks he's
But
dating
I don't
Gwen
feel
Stacy.
like-
He's kind of a douche.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't feel like it connects as strongly as Norman does or as Otto does.
No, I agree with you.
where he's just a competing photographer at the Bugle, and they haven't built that up. It's introduced in this movie, and it's all the entire arc happens, and it just doesn't feel as strong of a connection.
It's a disappointing end to a very good trilogy, I think.
Well, and it wasn't supposed
I
to
would
be the
agree.
end. That's
Yeah.
kind of what's sad about it, because they don't really resolve the Peter and Mary Jane stuff. I also think that 2 had a lot to do with the Peter and Mary Jane stuff, and it would have been nice to not immediately go back into that, of her being like, we can't be together, you're not making time for me. Like, it felt like a little bit of a
She
retread,
literally, yeah.
but not as good. And it ultimately doesn't get resolved, which is honestly a shame.
I also feel like Gwen Stacy is not Gwen Stacy in that movie.
No,
she's
not
not
at all.
She just has blonde hair
yeah,
and
she
a
just has
headband.
the
She's
headband.
Bryce.
She just like waltzes around in like a skirt, and I'm like, what is your character like? It's so weird.
We haven't said it yet, but we also should shout out J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh, how did we not
Is
talk
the
about
best.
that?
I don't know, but he is the epitome of that character in these movies.
Every single line he says, every single scene he's in is fucking gold. Everyone.
Yes, he's great in the OGs.
He's great, but this movie is not.
It's fine.
It's not a bad movie. I'll put dirt in
I
your
think
eye, dude.
I think it's the bottom of the
It's not
three.
bottom.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be there for long, I don't think.
No.
My spidey sense is telling me there's going to be worse ones coming soon.
Uh-oh, Sony, maybe don't put 3 villains in a movie.
Uh-oh.
And they love that.
So we agree to put it third, though?
Yeah, we'll put it third.
You didn't let me vote. This doesn't feel democratic.
You just said yeah.
I know, but
Are you gonna put it above 1 or
Yeah,
2?
you're gonna put it
I'm not
yeah,
going
you
to, but I just want the option to feel like it's a democracy in the rat community. Democratic. Anyway.
Demorats. All right, moving on. Amazing Spider-Man 2012, the reboot, starting off again. New Peter.
No James
New
Franco
vibe.
this time, which was a brave call.
You mean no Harry?
It's just not one I know that I agree with.
I mean, to me, of all the trilogies, like the chemistry between Andrew and Emma is like top tier. I love them, ride or die. They're my faves.
They have really good chemistry on screen.
Yeah. I already said it, but I'm a huge Gwen Stacy fan.
Honestly, I find their relationship annoying as shit in these movies. I know you guys said you really like it. I think their chemistry is good. I think there's so many scenes of them just whispering and saying random shit to each other, and they go on really long, and it's fucking annoying. Sorry to piss everybody off out there, but, you know, I like the actors.
I think the Gwen relationship actually makes this movie worthwhile kind of at all, because
Yeah.
the rest of it doesn't feel very Spider-Man. Like Peter
Yeah.
doesn't feel Spider-Man. But to be fair, Spider-Man feels Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So to be clear, like Peter is not a nerd. He's like a skater guy
Yeah,
who
it's
literally
weird.
wears
It's a
a
weird choice.
Thrasher shirt to graduation
so
later. Like,
good-looking,
no,
like-
yeah, and but like he's not even disliked at school. He just like gets into fights with people. Like
Yeah,
it's not like,
Flash just bullies him. That's
Yeah.
it.
but like he's not weird. Like
In the
people
first
like
movie, the
him.
bus driver bullies Tobey Maguire.
Flash doesn't even really
like, fuck this kid.
And Flash doesn't even really bully him. Flash bullies other weak nerds, and then Peter stands up to Flash, and then Flash like pushes him back. They messed it all up.
They do Flash better though than the Sam Raimi one, because I feel like the best part about Flash is that Flash bullies Peter Parker but loves Spider-Man, and they do have that at the end of this movie.
Well, no, the problem is not Flash. The problem is that this Peter Parker does not feel like somebody who is going to be bullied, really. And he's constantly doing like model faces, and like he looks cool, and the girls look at him as he like skates past them in the hallway. It's like, this is not Peter Parker.
Yeah, I mean, I said already, Tobey Maguire is the best Peter Parker. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man, but the worst Peter Parker.
I don't know that I think he's the best Spider-Man either. He's kind of mean.
Oh, I like
He's
him
really
as-
mean in this movie.
Yeah, he's
actually.
really mean in this
He doesn't
movie
really
to the
learn
villains
his
and
lessons until halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
max.
No, he never
I
learns
cut-
his
but
lesson.
okay.
At the end, he goes back on it. This movie, I don't like this movie, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, I think this one's good. I think
I like
that
it too,
they did
yeah.
an interesting choice on this one where they do go back over the Uncle Ben storyline. But I think the interesting part is that he doesn't only learn the lesson from Uncle Ben, he also gets the lesson from Captain Stacy.
Mhm.
And I really like Captain Stacy as a character.
Yeah, me too.
Where, you know, you're Spider-Man, you're a vigilante, and your girlfriend's dad is the chief of police who is trying his best to stop you. I get what you're saying, Johnny, that he is mean. He's kind of a little bitch in this one when he gets the powers,
Yeah.
right? He's not actually helping people yet. And it takes Captain Stacy saying, yeah, this guy's not a hero. And that's kind of the moment that it clicks for Peter, that he has these powers, that he could have been a hero, but he's not. And he sort of changes gears. And I actually like that dynamic.
No. I do agree. I do agree with you. I like Captain Stacy in this movie, and I know exactly the part you're talking about, and I think it is well done. I would agree with you, except for the very ending of the movie. I think ruins it.
No, but I think that's the whole Peter Parker thing, is that he's never able to do everything. He's always trying to juggle everything and do all of the things that...
But it feels a little bit different in like the Sam Raimi ones where you're like, oh, like it's like Aunt May that he cares about, not like Gwen State, like his high school girlfriend. Like he cares more about his high school girlfriend than like getting his eggs for Aunt May. Like he actually is such a dick to Aunt May in this movie.
Yeah.
He's down bad.
But at the end, he brings her the eggs.
Yeah, but
Oh,
like
wow.
I'm just saying. I'm
that's
just
the
saying.
bare minimum.
No, but I'm just saying he is a dick, but he ultimately learns his lesson, right?
But then he doesn't.
I think a thing with this movie,
He
though,
wants
is
to
that
date Gwen
they
Stacy.
were going for a darker take, right? Going for a little bit of a grittier take. Like all the things with him seeking revenge after Uncle Ben dies. It's not like they messed it up by accident. They're going for something, right? And I can appreciate how each of these different Spider-Man takes is going for a different thing. Like nobody wants to watch the same thing over and over again, right? Like everything should bring something new to the table. I do feel like, though, he's just not that likable of a character.
I think it's the script though, because I actually do think, to give Andrew Garfield a lot of credit, Andrew Garfield as an actor makes you like the character.
Yeah,
And I
his
don't think it
acting is
would have been
good.
that way had like Tobey Maguire been with this script. Like genuinely, I
No,
don't think
I
if Tobey
100%
Maguire was
agree with you.
So
Yeah.
I think they cast it well to make you still care about Peter, and his dynamic with Gwen I think is a big part of that, and with Captain Stacy. But I don't think another actor in that role with the screenplay that we have, like the Peter wouldn't be as likable.
Yeah, for sure.
I also don't like that they planted the seed that like Richard and Mary are like
Oh,
spies.
yeah.
Totally agree.
I hate that too.
that
It's
part.
bad. Yeah, it's bad.
Because it's like one of those things where it's like you could have done so much better by doing less, which is like more disappointing than not fulfilling what you should have done in the first place. It's like, why are you trying to do too much?
Yeah, totally agree.
But it also does make the parents feel more important because there's this cold open of them
Right.
running it out with all their important stuff.
Right.
And then also connecting, like it kind of works in the like we're connecting Dr. Connors to Peter, that like he knew his dad, but it also feels like
I just think it's a little too
convenient.
close. It's
Yeah.
a little too close because it's like animal testing and geneticism.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a little too close for me.
And to talk about just like when he becomes Spider-Man, the fact that there are like 800 spiders in the room is so stupid.
A lot of really weird choices. I do like the lizard though, talking about that and Dr. Connors being connected. Peter goes to him and he's researching cross-species genetics, and that's where Peter gets the genetically engineered spider. I actually kind of think that works well.
Well, but that goes back to, like, I totally agree with you. I like the lizard a lot, and I think his character is cool. And yeah, the connection is cool too, and the dichotomy of the two characters. But like you said, it just goes to why you don't need the parents thing. It's already there.
And I kind of wish like the equations and stuff that Peter's figuring out, like I wish they weren't his dad's. Like
It
they
just
could have just
finds
been
them.
him. Like,
I know.
He could have just figured it out and been like, oh, this is the guy that I ran into when I snuck into Gwen Stacy in this internship.
They just end up taking a lot away from his character.
Yeah.
Where would you guys rank this one?
3 right now.
So above Spider-Man 3, but below Spider-Man 1.
Yes.
I think that's the same for me.
I guess I would put it above Spider-Man 3. Like, because I like Spider-Man 3, but for the wrong reasons. The things I like about this one are for good reasons, I guess.
I like this one more than Spider-Man 1, but not more than Spider-Man 2.
More than Spider-Man 1?
That's crazy.
I like Gwen Stacy. I think visually it's better. And I prefer the portrayal of Spider-Man by Andrew Garfield than the portrayal of Spider-Man by Tobey Maguire. So
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not into the Raimi camp, so it takes it down for me a lot.
Yeah. So does it still land?
Yeah,
after?
you guys, it goes where you guys said.
Okay.
All right. Next up, Amazing Spider-Man 2, 2014.
I only have one thing to say. You forgot my birthday.
I know what you guys are gonna say. You're gonna start shitting on this movie. You're gonna say, why does Jamie Foxx's teeth gap close when he falls into a
Electricity,
pool of
dude.
electric eels? I've heard people say that a lot and say that that's dumb, but I'm here to defend the movie. Clearly, he got some metal fillings done, and the electricity had some magnetism, and it brought them together.
Okay.
That's very obvious in the movie. I don't know why people shit on that.
I honestly like this movie in the sense that I like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, where it's like so zany and out there. I'm like, might as well just go for it if you're going for it. It is camp.
This is like a Batman and Robin type movie.
I think that the death of Gwen Stacy is handled pretty well, actually. It's the way how we get there is a little stupid, but that her death and the way that Spider-Man deals with it, I think actually is pretty good. And it hits home. It makes me cry. I think, again, we mentioned in the first movie, but I think Emma and Andrew's performances are both really strong in this movie, especially with each other. So I think that arc ending in this movie is done really well for me.
I agree. I think the Gwen and Spider-Man stuff, or the Gwen and Peter stuff is really good in this one. Peter knowing that it's not a good idea to be with Gwen and then getting the worst result that they both feared from it. I actually love, it's kind of a meme, but the end where Peter has quit being Spider-Man. Paul Giamatti, everyone's favorite, Rhino shows up.
Alexi.
I actually think that scene is really awesome and a really great illustration of Spider-Man is even when the worst thing that could possibly happen to him in his life has happened to him and it really took him out and he's been out of the game for months. When it really comes down to it, he knows that he has to be Spider-Man.
I think it's good too. I think in the first one, how I was complaining about how at the end, it kind of doubles back on his growth. I think that this one continues the growth and then ultimately does get to a good place that is meaningful to Spider-Man as a character.
It is kind of crazy to compare it to the Sam Raimi trilogy that in 2 movies, so many people close to Peter die. I don't know. I feel like Gwen dying is like more harmful to Peter as a human than Norman is to Peter in the previous one.
Peter Parker's got it rough out there. For in this duology anyway, first movie, girlfriend's dad dies, Uncle Ben dies. Second movie, girlfriend dies.
At least his fashion's on point.
Yeah, true.
This is the best Spider-Man
suit
suit
is
out of all
great
of
in
them.
this
Out of
one.
every single
Yeah.
movie, it's the best visual Spider-Man. The visual effects are amazing. The swinging is amazing. His physicality in the suit is amazing. That's like the best compliment I
Yeah.
could give this movie.
But this one also, to its detriment, doubles, triples, quadruples down on the spy stuff. They're like,
Yeah, man.
Mary and Richard are spies and they died in a plane crash.
Yeah, the only reason he's Spider-Man is because his dad programmed DNA into the spiders.
Yeah.
So only he could have ever become Spider-Man. Like, that is not what the meaning of Spider-Man is supposed to be.
Super bad decision.
Probably the worst thing you could
But at
have
least they tried
possibly
something new.
done in a Spider-Man movie. Genuinely.
Where would you put the Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Bottom.
Yeah, his bottom.
It just gets bogged down. Yeah, it's got to be last.
Yeah, same for me.
Okay, so moving on. New trilogy, new Spider-Man.
Dang.
Spider-Man.
We're doing this
Homecoming,
again? Another
2017.
one? But we just did the other one.
I think it was a good choice when you restarted Spider-Man to start him young with an actor who felt young at the time.
Agreed.
I love the high school vibes of this whole trilogy, honestly, but this movie the most so. It does actually feel like kids in high school. This absolutely has that John Hughesy kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it's also a smart choice. Even though part of me wants to see it, is to like be like, we all know what happens. Like, we don't need to see the Uncle Ben and the like making of the suit. Like, it's fine. Like, just skip to the next story.
Yeah, you have to, on one hand, appreciate a new take, right? Because even if it's not your favorite, even if you're like, oh yeah, I like what they did the very first time the best, you don't want to just watch a rehash of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say this one starts the problem, and I don't think it is a problem in this movie, but it does start the problem where Spider-Man is just like an Iron Man intern. And I think that follows him throughout this trilogy, which I don't love. I like when Spider-Man has autonomy and just feels like a New York
Yeah.
superhero, but being a part of the MCU obviously overcomplicates things because there are other heroes in New York, there are other heroes in the world, where the other movies don't ever really get into that. So this one is coming at it from a different angle anyway, because it's interconnected in this big universe that they've already set up. But it's a little weird that he has like a Stark internship.
Yeah.
I kind of also like solo Spider-Man, but I do feel like at its core, I do think that these movies understand what Spider-Man is. I think there's a lot of really good stuff of the Peter Parker life balance stuff, and also what it means to be Spider-Man, and the lesson in this ultimately being that it's not about being cool like the Avengers. It's just about being there to do the right thing, not for the credit or for the recognition, but because you want to help people. And
one thing though, that to compare it to the Andrew and the Toby ones, we don't really feel like Peter's life sucks at all. So the interpersonal struggles and like balancing just being in high school and being a superhero is still there, but it doesn't quite feel as life and death in this one, which it can be good.
I think that's a good point.
Also Aunt May is like just doing well. Like, he doesn't need to help her. She's like hot and she has a nice apartment. Like, what is there to help Aunt May?
There's so many scenes in like the Toby and the Andrew Garfield ones where he's like trying to make Aunt May hot. And this one doesn't have to deal with that struggle.
That really went. I was like, what?
He's like buying her clothes. He's like giving her makeup and stuff. He's like, come on, try this on.
Okay, love that.
Just a huge weight off his shoulders.
I think obviously we've talked about it with all of them. A villain is a huge part of a comic book movie, but also
Vulture's
Spider-Man.
so good.
And yeah, Vulture in this one rules. And I think they
So
did a great
good.
job with it, because in the comic books, Vulture is just a petty criminal. He just
he
is a guy
sucks in the
who's got a
comics.
wingsuit who robs banks. They did such a great... Michael Keaton kills it in this movie. And then it's not how it is in the comics, but I like the twist that the girl he's trying to date, her dad is the Vulture. And what a reveal the first time I watched it. Did not see it coming.
Oh, no, me neither.
That and the whole car ride where you're like, he's figuring it out. Like, please get out of the car.
Yeah, incredible. Really, really good.
Like his facial expressions, the nuance of like Dylan saying like when he learns information, or just like
He, like, knows
him
it's-
high. Yeah.
When he
so-
finds out.
Good-
Yeah, that
good old
part is so
Spider-Man.
I was on
good.
the
He looks
edge
in the
of my
mirror
seat.
review. I'll be
Yeah.
like, you're like, get out of the car. One of my favorite things that we haven't spoken about is adding my Filipino king, Ned. He's so good.
I really like
love that
Ned.
he has like a best friend.
It's a great dynamic.
Because it's not like a Harry. It's different. Like, it's like the best friend that you hang out with all the time. Like,
Totally.
Because Harry's
and I
not a
love
good
Ned's
friend.
Involvement and
Ned's actually a good
No.
friend.
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the scene where he finds out he's Spider-Man first.
Yeah.
Like, that part is so good. It's
Yeah.
like such a good reveal. Like, I love Ned as a character.
Yeah, he's great. He's so funny. The actor is amazing, and like the guy in the chair dynamic that they have later is just It's it's so funny. It's nice to see Peter with Ned as like a best friend, but also see him interact with the other students at school too, because like there is a bit more of a cast of characters at school. It's not just like there is Flash, but it's not just Flash, and that's even highlighted more in the second one. But the school feels natural, and the kids feel like they interact in a way that like real high school students would.
Yeah, I love the supporting cast. They're great.
I think going back to the Vulture too, there's a really good dichotomy between Peter in this movie and the Vulture, because they're both very tied to the Avengers, right? And for the Vulture, he's basically like, I'm a blue collar guy, you're a blue collar guy, or you come from a blue collar family. The Avengers are taking everything away from us, so we need to take something back. We need to fight for ourselves. And from Peter's perspective, he gets dissed in the movie, and they're like, no, you're not good enough. And he has every reason to side with the Vulture in this part, right? Let the Vulture take revenge against the Avengers, go to Homecoming, but the morality comes through. And I think what you were saying before, Xander, where they do really understand Spider-Man in this movie, it comes through in that.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting also to compare to the other two, where this Peter doesn't really have to learn to be a good person. He's just kind of a kid who's naturally a good person. And the lesson here is like how to make being a good person a hero, instead of being like, how do I be a good person and a hero? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just a different dynamic. Like, he's never really mean.
Where do you guys want to put Homecoming?
I personally would put it above Spider-Man 1, but I don't know if you guys feel this.
I'd put it in the same place.
I think I'd put it above Amazing Spider-Man 1.
I would put this number 1.
Oh.
Okay, so do the math.
Well, it would be
I feel
second.
like that means
then.
it's 2.
Yeah, it would be second, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next up on the list, Spider-Man Far From Home from 2019. Something that is a little bit weird about doing these ones, these three are part of a larger universe. This one does rely very heavily on the death of Tony Stark.
I personally think that's what kind of hurts this movie. It's that it's bogged down by a lot of MCU stuff. I think Homecoming, yeah, it has the idea of the Avengers and Iron Man in it, but it's not really bogged down in my opinion.
Yeah, it goes back to what Jordan was saying about these, where Spider-Man doesn't feel like his own character. It's always connected to Iron Man. And for me, the Iron Man stuff doesn't bother me. The Nick Fury stuff, and then when we get to the next one, Doctor Strange stuff bothers me a lot more for not separating him.
I feel like for me, just because of the fact that Mysterio is the villain, like, I just feel like I hate all the CGI in it. I mean, they do it in every movie, but I like when the suit is like real for like at least 2 seconds.
Yeah,
and
like
like
in the MCU.
Yeah, I also, going off of the suit, I don't love the Iron Spider, and I also don't love the like him building the Iron Man suit like Iron Man montage. Yeah, I just don't like it.
I like the different setting. I think that's fun. I think it's a bold choice to be like, put Spider-Man in Europe. That's different for him.
I'm fine with Europe, but it's a little weird that they like decide to go to DC in the first one and then go on another school trip in this one.
Yeah.
Like, you have 2 school trips outside of New York back to back. Just a strange choice. I don't dislike it even. It's just strange and not like any of the others.
No, I do feel like for some reason, John Watts like wanted Spider-Man not to be New York really bad. And they made him do it in the last one. I think they forced him. I think he would have put him in Australia if he had the choice. I saw it was going to be Spidey Down Under.
I really like Mysterio. I think they do a really good job with him in this movie. I know people don't like that the Spider-Man villains are all tied around Tony Stark. The idea that he's going to pretend to be a hero so that he can get, power and glory and stuff like that, I think works really well for what the core of that character kind of is. And I like the whole scheme to trick Peter. I think for me, the Tower Bridge sequence at the end is the best action set piece of any of this trilogy.
Visually, that one's amazing.
Yeah, I really like it. It feels like Spider-Man. I like the choreography, a lot of that, and it looks really good.
I think there's a lot of good action set pieces in this.
The Night Monkey one too, when they're like at the carnival, is cool.
Molten Man.
I was gonna say, I like that it's like about him trusting his spider sense. Like, that's a fun little story beat. Like they've never really talked about that before.
The ending bit is amazing too, where he just fully relies on his spider sense to beat Mysterio at the end. Yeah, the Peter Tingle, as they call it.
I don't like that they called it that. I love
the last little the last little bit too, where Mysterio has the one last trick and he's about to shoot him.
Yeah.
And he catches him and he goes, "You can't trick me anymore." I love that. It's a good growth for the character. And yeah, the spider sense is cool. It's one of the main things that makes him Spider-Man. So I like that a lot in this one.
It's a satisfying victory too.
I also love Tom and Zendaya, so they finally kiss in this one.
I think her character in the first one's a little bit like she's a little too quiet for to like from that one to this one, but I think in this one she finds her footing and she becomes a part of the gang, and I like it a lot. I also like the side characters. Like I like Betty and Ned dating.
Yeah, it's great.
That's
It's great.
great. I love Flash on vacation following all the Spider-Man news. Like I think you mentioned earlier, like in the Andrew Garfield one, Flash liking Spider-Man with the t-shirt at the end, but like Flash's dynamic with Spider-Man in this one is really good.
I love the teachers too.
Yeah.
They're like, everybody off the bus.
One other thing I don't like that's in this movie is that he tells everybody who he is. His secret identity is trash in these movies, and it bothers me a lot.
It's an MCU problem.
I know.
They hate it. They hate secret identities.
But Spider-Man, I get
agree
it for
with you.
some
It's annoying.
characters.
I agree with you.
Because, like, he meets Mysterio. He's like, hey, I'm Peter Parker. It's like, why are you telling him, dude?
But Peter kind of tells a lot of people that
No, he
he's
does.
Spider-Man in
He,
this
I don't like that Aunt May
universe.
knows. I don't think she should know.
Because he
Happy
tells
Hogan
Ned
knows.
instantly also. Like,
Well, Ned finds out on accident.
yeah, but he's like pretty comfortable with it. And then he tells Aunt May at the end of the
Yeah.
first one. Yeah, Happy knows, obviously. Iron Man knows, obviously. All of the Avengers know.
I do like at the end how the reveal, because that was a good like cliffhanger to be like Mysterio being like, "Hey world, this is Peter Parker," and we were all like, "Oh no!" And then the movie just ends. I was
Yeah.
like, that was a fun little setup. Like I thought that was an interesting way. I know you guys don't like it, but
No. I
you
like
don't
that
you
because
don't
that's
that. It
like a
doesn't have
reveal
secret,
where it's
he
like,
doesn't have a secret identity.
yeah,
It's
we're
not
going to
his
deal with the
choice.
consequences in the next movie.
I would put it above Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 1.
But below Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
I agree with that. You
I
guys
agree with that.
Do you?
I was thinking about it. Part of me likes the Andrew Garfield first one better than this one, but part of me likes this one better. I was trying to debate internally.
There is like
but
good
I
elements
think-
of each of them, but they're very different, the good elements.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. I may put this one under Amazing Spider-Man. It's hard because this is not exactly
I know,
my
same.
ranking, so
Yeah, I would say this is like
Well, it's fine because I'm going to put it below Homecoming, above Spider-Man 1.
okay. So Dylan and
it's,
Johnny's.
yeah, it's going to go below Spider-Man 1. Last up on the list, Spider-Man No Way Home, 2022.
the loudest theater I've ever been in.
They
Andrew
were-
Garfield appeared on the screen.
They were making a ruckus in there.
Yeah.
This one is pure popcorn nostalgia fest. Have a good time. If you love Spider-Man like we all do, you're going to have fun watching this
Yeah.
movie.
It's fan service, and I'm a fan, so
Yeah.
I was serviced.
It's one of the most like impressive. Like I'm actually surprised it didn't leak. Like it kind of did, but people still didn't believe it. So when we watched it, I was like, "Oh, like they're actually in it. That's crazy." I was actually pleasantly surprised.
I think this movie's a banger.
Me too.
Yeah, we said earlier how good Willem Dafoe is, and he's good again. So
I think he's better in this
Yeah, I
one
was going to
than
say
in the
he's
first
almost
one.
better.
I think both are great, but I think he went to another level on this one.
the old man Osborn, like it has a different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
Oh, the best line.
So good. That is
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really is unhinged in this one. Even just little things where I think the choice to not give him the goblin mask, you could see his face. And we talked about, Willem Dafoe having really good facial expressions. The scene where Spider-Man is on, where they fight in the apartment building. My favorite action scene of the movie. I think
Yeah,
it's great.
that whole thing.
Him punching him in the face as hard as he can, and Willem Dafoe just laughing hysterically in his face as he's getting hit. You just don't get that in the first one because he's wearing the mask, and I think you get a lot out of Willem Dafoe in this one, where he gets to
Scary.
emote. Yeah, it's scary.
Oh, the moment where Peter is like having his spider sense, like one of them is gonna go bad.
Yeah.
He like, oh, that
Yeah.
like my heart was racing.
The way they use the spider sense is really great in this one.
Yeah, right. That's right before that fight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
He also like freaking kills Aunt May, which is like such a crazy like high stakes thing.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like this is like the Uncle Ben moment, but it didn't really come in the same place in the character for Peter's arc. So it's interesting that they kind of used it as the like Uncle Ben motivation, but I was also sad when it happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. They kind of get into the end of these, but they kind of treated this trilogy as the origin story for Spider-Man. Where he ends up at the end of this is probably the version of Spider-Man that you're talking about when you talked about the first movie.
I think it's a really meandering path to where they got, and it's really weird when you follow it and kind of confusing and all over the place. But where they do end up really, really works for me.
I agree. I think again, I think it is a good understanding of the character of Spider-Man, and they do They do it in a weird way, but the fundamentals are still really understood and executed on, I think.
This movie, Tom Holland feels the most like the others in that like he actually hits a low. Like we see him hit a low. Like the Iron Man death, like obviously hurts, not quite the same thing as his aunt dying. Like this is more of that emotional moment. I think Tom does a good job where he like that once that happens, like there is a change in the way that he's performing, in the way that the character is Spider-Man, like where he wants to give up. He's like, I'm done with this. Like this isn't worth it anymore. And it takes the other Peters to be like, no, man, like come on, you can do it. I've been there.
We talked about this on the Deadpool and Wolverine episode. Not multiverse fans, the rats. But this version of it is probably the best one that's done in live action.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The fact that it's a little bit more...
It's personal.
A little bit more doled out. Yeah, personal. And the fact that the Andrew and Toby Spider-Man kind of serve to be there to support him through this emotional moment and help him complete the with great power comes great responsibility arc gives them a reason to be there that is not seen in a lot of the other multiverse movies that the MCU has done, where they're just like, look, it's John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
It also in turn helps both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's arcs as well. Tobey Maguire, does end up with MJ and they make it work. And Andrew Garfield gets the moment where he saves Zendaya MJ and gets some sense of closure because he's clearly been in a dark place for years.
That moment is so great. It's really well done and performed by Andrew Garfield.
It's heartbreaking and really satisfying for somebody who cares about the movies and cares about the character.
We talked about Willem Dafoe. I think Doc Ock is really good in this movie as well, and Jamie Foxx is also really good. But the other two, Sandman and Lizard, they didn't need to be there, in my opinion.
They're just fodder.
Other than just they're there.
Yeah.
The other thing I will
That's
say
true.
is, while I think Willem Dafoe's performance is better in this one than the first one, I do think you lose a little bit with Green Goblin as a character, because I think part of what makes him so interesting is the fact that it's his best friend / father figure behind the mask. I think Doc Ock is the same thing. It's his teacher. It's his idol. It's this guy that he thinks, oh my God, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a scientist who helps people. And then he turns bad. This Peter Parker has no connection to these characters.
I do like that they connect Willem Dafoe with Aunt May in the beginning, though, because that's kind of the through line there.
Yeah, I do like
where,
that
like,
as well.
she sees the good in him, so he has to because of her.
Right. Yeah, she's his moral compass.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, because I think in this movie it's more about, Peter doesn't care about these people. He sees Green Goblin specifically, you murdered my aunt, I'm going to murder you, and he goes to a really dark place. And then you have Toby and Andrew, but specifically Toby, coming in and being like, no, we're saving all of them. We're heroes. We save people.
Yeah.
We're not going to kill them.
Yeah. And it comes from the maturity that, like, Toby's literally 45 now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like. I like the dynamic between the three of them. I like Lola too, going back to Ned.
Yeah.
Their introduction scene is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she's like, prove it, and she throws the bread at him.
Oh yeah, that's so
I
funny.
like him sticking with one hand to the ceiling, and she's like, that's not enough.
Crawl around.
Crawl.
It needs to be said, Doctor Strange.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs
Boo.
down. I like the math fight. That's fun.
Yeah, I like
Why
that.
is it in there?
I like that.
Because, like, why not? Like, he's already, might as well give Benedict his due.
The MCU just has such a problem with, like, balancing their characters that, like,
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is literally one of the most powerful heroes, and he gets got by
Math. By
Like,
math.
It's
Also,
absurd.
the fact that he tries to cast this spell and messes it up in the first place and it's so stupid and convoluted.
The chemistry between all the characters in the movie, though, the Spider-Man specifically, and also the villains, and also Spider-Man's friends, is just so good that, like, the details of how you get there, you almost don't care.
Yeah, and when the ultimate arc is really good. It is satisfying at the end.
The ending of this movie, I think, is superb, honestly. Like, it makes me tear up the whole scene of him going to visit MJ and Ned and trying to tell them about it, and then he decides not to, is honestly heartbreaking, but I think really well done.
But he has the classic suit at the
The
end.
best suit.
Love the
best
suit. The
suit.
best
That's my
suit the
favorite
MCU's
suit.
done.
I love the light blue. I think it was really cool that we got to see all three Spider-Men on screen together, but I hope we don't see it again.
I agree. I liked it. It was a really fun time.
It's a
I want
one-time
him to
thing.
be his own Spider-Man now.
I don't know if we mentioned it, but Giacchino, I don't know how to say his name.
Giacchino.
Giacchino the music is really good in all of these three. Also, I think the theme,
true.
the Spider-Man theme, is really good.
It's my
It's really
favorite
strong.
Spider-Man theme. Good shout. Where do you guys want to put No Way Home?
I have it above Far From Home and below Spider-Man 1.
Okay.
I agree with that. Dylan and I
That's
are on the same
for me.
page.
Yeah,
Oh, you too, Jordan?
I agree with that also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, yeah, you have no say.
Right.
Go ahead and
yeah.
say what you want. Let the people know.
I was
but-
gonna say
I mean, you have to have an
it could
opinion. though.
affect it by
You have to
one.
vote.
It could affect it by
I'll
one
put it below
space.
Far From Home because I really like Far From Home. All right. So the Rats on Film official list for the live action Spider-Man movies, objectively in our opinion, starting from the bottom: The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, and the Big Cheese, Spider-Man 2. Can we get like
Yay.
it's cheese time? It's big cheese time.
It's cheese time.
It's cheese time.
Any closing thoughts on Spider-Man?
It's a great character. I hope they keep making more in some way because I think it's fun to do fresh new takes on old characters, and it's something that we've done as a society for forever. So
There's also a lot of great Spider-Man villains. I like the trend of trying to do new villains. I hope they go back to that. Thanks for listening to Rats on Film, everybody. You can follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. We'll post this list and all the future lists we make on Letterboxd. You can follow us there, Rats on Film Pod. Tell a friend about the show where a bunch of film rats talk about and rank movies. And we will be back in 2 weeks to talk about some more films.
bye.
Bye.